Hey, Brian Wright Show Nation. Welcome inside the broadcast booth. Brian Wright here, and welcome in to another edition of the Brian Wright Show podcast, episode 126, as a matter of fact, that we're doing today. And something cool, just got a little data report from our hosting company. We use Buzzsprout to host the podcast, and we have now had downloads in 127 countries and territories all across the globe. 127. I mean, how cool is that? We keep growing the following. Great one today. We're going to be talking about consensus leadership, why I personally think it sucks and how it holds back innovation, how it keeps you from advancing forward. It holds your business back. It holds your employees back. And it affects all of your lives as well. We're going to dive into it. There is a way that I'm going to describe on how I like to run companies and how we teach. I am going to talk to you about that, and it is a form of consensus leadership that works if it's done in one specific way. This whole mindset of I've got to get people's approval, and if the majority of my team doesn't say yes to an idea, or if the majority of my team wants me to change something, right, then you have to do it, is the opposite of how great leaders, great entrepreneurs go about growing their businesses and being unique in whatever space you happen to be in. It's going to be a great one today, and hopefully this resets your mind and changes what you were thinking a leader is, all right? And it's going to be an awesome one. And before we get started, let's fire up the music.
Welcome to the Brian Wright Show audio experience, a podcast dedicated to transforming lives, careers, and businesses. And now your host. He's a husband, father of two, an international business and life coach, the founder and CEO of New Patient Group and WrightChat, and a consultant and global speaker for some of the finest companies in the world, such as Invisalign and many others. Now, here's your host, Brian Wright.
I will remember this story that I'm about to tell you for as long as I live. And it happened years ago. And when it happened, I immediately was in my podcast notes on my iPhone, jotting down the story. Hey, don't forget. And this is one of these things that, sometimes when I go into my notes, I'm like, oh, thank God I took notes. Otherwise, I was going to totally forget. And then there's other things that happen as I travel around, work with companies, speak on stage, consult with businesses, all the above. There are stories that stick in my head that I wouldn't need a note to remember it 50 years from now. This is one of these because we're going to be talking about today something very passionate about. You'll probably tell as I dive deeper into this episode how passionate I am about it. But gosh darn it, this story I'm about to tell you is so many of you out there are sabotaging everything you've ever worked for. You're sabotaging your businesses. You're sabotaging living a better life. Employees out there, if you have a closed mind, we have a lot of employees, hourly and executive level reps across the country that listen to this podcast. So many of you are sabotaging your careers in order to live a better life because of some of the mindsets that I'm going to be talking about today. Well, a long time ago, there's this lady that calls us, and she's an orthodontist. And many of you, as we launched as the Brian Wright Show and rebranded from the New Patient Group podcast, we've actually have a ton more listens already. Like the downloads are happening more and more, and our voice needs to be heard by entrepreneurs out there. It needs to be heard by anybody wanting to transform life, career, business, and it's why we did it. Our niche, though, for those of you who are newer, is in the orthodontic space, the dental space, because, and this is one of the reasons I'm a consultant and speaker for Align Technology, the makers of Invisalign, is that when you type in Invisalign as an example into Google, you have 15 options that pop up within probably a few miles of your house or where you work or where your kid goes to school as an example. So the process that they have to have in order to convince you to buy from them and at a higher dollar is no different than whenever you type in pasta carbonara and there's 6 Italian places within 10 miles of your house where you work, that kind of thing. The journey, the customer experience journey, and how you interact via but leading up to purchase and after purchase, via every interaction you have with your customer, with your patient, has never been this important. And so this is why I'm on the phone with this doctor, and she has a lot of problems. I'm like, hey, look, we don't have a lot of time today on the phone. Let's hop on a Zoom, bring some numbers. Let me look at things. And she was in rough shape, man. It was rough. Production's down, collections are down. her overhead's through the roof, and not the good kind. Now, many of you know that I teach that all overhead is not created equal. Right? You have overhead that keeps you open today, but you also have overhead that advances you tomorrow. Right? It reduces your chaos, your stress, your headaches. It produces a return on your growth, your revenue, your production, your collections, those kind of things. And that's why not all overhead is created equal, because I may have a higher overhead than you, and while you're out bragging to your friends how low your overhead is, your overhead is filled with costs. My overhead is filled with investments that are producing returns. So therefore, I'm kicking your butt because I'm constantly looking to invest in my business and get a return out of it. No different than we all look at stocks and crypto and whatever it is. Like, we're looking to get a return. We're not nickel and diming the stock, right? We're not tripping over dollars to pick up pennies like so many of you do in your business. But this lady's overhead, it all fell in the cost aisle. She didn't like her team. She was frustrated. The culture was bad. She blamed herself as well. Like, hey, I need leadership work. I've got leadership problems. But I think that no matter what kind of leader I am, and this is true sometimes, right? We teach leadership on here as well as many other things, obviously. But there are times where you could be the greatest leader on the planet, and there's still going to be people that you can't change their mindset. All they're going to do is complain about where they are in life, but refuse to take any personal responsibility for it, refuse to change. And there are those people. And she probably had some of those on her team based on how she was describing things and what she's tried. Sales were down, everything was down across the board. Now, this was a referral from a couple of doctors that have been with New Patient Group for years and are still with New Patient Group. And I'm talking to her on the Zoom, and she's bought in. She's like, look, like, my friends that referred me have absolutely crushed it with your companies. They've told me they're going to be with you for life. This is a move I need to make. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, DocuSign's going to go out and we get to start with a new journey. And that's my favorite piece whenever I'm working with all of you out there. Even though I teach sales for a living and experience and all the stuff we do on here, my favorite part is still the journey. It's still taking, it's one of the reasons why I love cooking so much is you're taking all these pieces, all these random pieces all over the place, and you're bringing it together to work in harmony to create something fantastic. And that's exactly what business is. You have ingredients everywhere, all over the place. And unfortunately for a lot of you out there, that's how it remains. You don't have the ability to bring those ingredients into a story that becomes fantastic and provides a unique value proposition to the consumer that you're trying to get to buy from you, refer to you, be compliant for you, video testimonials, all the stuff. She said to me one thing before we got off, and when she said it, that's when I knew, okay, I'm putting this into the notes and I'm never going to hear from this lady again. She said, Brian, this sounds fantastic. I need it. I trust you. You know, I've listened to the podcast for years, and my friends use you and all the stuff. You know, let's get started. But what I need to do first is I need to consult with my team. I need to talk to them. I need to get their thoughts on this. And I said to myself, what is she talking about? You know, the team that she doesn't even like, the team that's causing all kinds of headaches, the team that puts stop gaps on everything, right? Instead of innovation and always wanting to move forward, it's, we don't need that stuff, and now we're fine, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking to myself, what the hell is she talking about? And I said to her, before we got off, I said to her, what do you need to do that for? Well, I owe it to them. You know, we work together. They're part of my business. I trust their word. Blah, blah. And I'm just like, all right, inside my head, I'm never going to hear from this lady again. Like, can you all imagine a scenario? And this, I went to my wife afterwards. I said, this is why it's so hard in our niche to grow, because you all out there need this. Like, everybody, it needs experience training, leadership training, sales, hospitality, all the things we teach. You need it on a repetitive, ongoing basis. No matter how good you're doing, no matter how bad you're doing, or whatever in between, all of you need it. But so many of you are reluctant to take action. And many of you who do want to take action, you are sitting there and you are wanting to consult with your team to get their ideas, to get their thoughts on whether or not you should do it. And you are trusting, and we have tons of hourly employees that listen to this. So it's not like this is a criticism or anything. It's just a fact. You know, the lower level pay the employee is, and there's exceptions to this, And those exceptions, again, going back to the overhead, those exceptions, the rock stars, I call them, would fall into your investment category and your overhead. It wouldn't fall into the cost category because your rock stars are advancing your business tomorrow. There are exceptions to what I'm about to say, but if you're a business owner out there, franchise, you take McDonald's as an example, right? The people working there and the pay level they have, they come with a mindset. And that mindset, most of the time, is not what can I wake up today and be better at? Set the alarm 30 minutes earlier and get up and work out for 15 minutes, right? Eat healthier, right? Make sure my morning routine is matching what some of the most famous entrepreneurs do in the mornings. How can I read a book over the course of the next week to give myself the skill sets that gives me a leg up on other people so I can advance through the ranks? And I'm just using McDonald's as an example. Like so many of you out there, whether it be clinical assistants, whether it be your receptionist, treatment coordinators, whatever type of business you are out there, like the reality is the hourly paid employee usually, and this is why one of your responsibilities is to train them on this, usually does not come with the mindset of innovation, of how do we advance the business forward? How do we get the business in a place that's better tomorrow than it is today, even if I've got to work harder to do it? That kind of thing. And this was so many of you are consulting with people that most entrepreneurs would never hire in a million years as far as mindset goes. So this lady goes back, and I was telling my wife I'm never going to hear from this lady again. And sure enough, it's been 3 or 4, maybe even longer. It could have been 5 or 6 years. Just show you how long this is sitting in the podcast notes. Whatever, doesn't matter. It's been a long time. Never heard from her again. So here's a lady that is her business and her dreams are absolutely getting crushed. And she's going to go back and consult with people that, again, she doesn't even want around, and she's going to get their word on it. And it's always amazing to me, guys. Going back to can you imagine a situation where this just cracks me up, and all of you've got to think this way, where she goes back and she says, "Hey, look, we have major problems. Our production is down, collections are down. I haven't paid myself in months. It's hard for me to even make payroll every single month. All of you are miserable. I'm miserable. The entire business is going under. I'm going to bring in a company called New Patient Group. Their founder and CEO is this guy, speaks all over the world. They're going to come in and they're going to make us role play. They're going to hold us accountable. They're going to work on and train us on skill sets none of us have really any expertise in, from leadership to hospitality to customer experience to customer service, which those are all three things very, very different. Consumer psychology, sales, all the stuff we teach. They're going to come in, they're going to bust our butt. It's going to be a long, grueling process. We can still have fun together, of course, during this, but it's going to be a long process. I trust them. Let's do this. What are your thoughts? Can you imagine them all going, yeah, let's do it. Yay, we get to role play, and we get to be consistent, and we get to be held accountable and repetitive and all this. Of course they're going to say no, everybody. I mean, most rock stars, even executive level talent, if you look at one of the number one traits of billionaires, they all have a coach. But if you look at most executives, as well as most hourly paid employees and everybody in between, that's the salary level, very few people have a coach. So you go from the smartest business brain entrepreneurs in the world that have a coach, and yet you don't think you need one. And it's amazing though, but listening to that, I hope all of you get your hourly employees are not going to want to do things that are going to innovate, that are going to advance your business, that are going to make them change, most likely. They're also not going to want to do things where a lot of these problems, they're fixable. No matter what your problem is out there, whether it be you can't make a sale, you make sales, but then you have compliance problems. You make sales and then your customers don't refer, your patients don't refer, you got leaky holes whatever it is. All of them are fixable. Every single one of them. There is no non-fixable problem, but you have to invest to get it fixed. There are ways, everybody, to make it better. But and this is what consensus leadership is in a nutshell. It's not, if you have 10 employees, it's not about, hey, let's get everybody's blessing. We got to be 10 out of 10. What consensus leadership is, the majority. And so if you have 10 employees, the whole realm of consensus leadership is let's get 6 to approve. We're going to try to get 10. Let's get 6 to approve, and if they do, we're good. We're going to go with the idea. But if 6 say, "Nah, we don't need it," then we're not. And so many of you, too, beyond consensus leadership, so many of you consult with people inside your business, whether it be your office manager, whether it be your treatment coordinator, whether it be your waiters, whether it be your chef, whatever the heck it is. You consult with people that are stop block people. They put the brakes on everything. They immediately go to the what ifs. They immediately go to, well, if it's somebody else's idea, that puts less value on me, which is just an insane mindset. But so many people that work for you out there have the mindset of, if it's not coming from me, I don't want it because I don't want to lessen my value. It's asinine. But a lot of you out there are consulting with the people that are doing everything to hold you back, to tell you why it won't work, to bring up the what ifs, to say, we don't need that. This is not about you can't sit down with your team. And I'm going to talk about this here just a little bit further in the podcast. But this is not about you can't sit down with your team and discuss things. I love sitting down with my WrightChat leadership team and talking about ideas and bouncing things off each other. And I love those sessions because my WrightChat leadership team are innovators. I've worked really hard, and we as an organization have worked really hard with my company, a new patient group as well. I'm just using WrightChat as an example. Really hard to create a culture where the people that sit at top, and I use top as air quotes. You all know how I teach leadership, and it's not about job ranking, and it's not about people at the top. A leader could be the janitor in your organization, could lead people better than your CEO. So it's not about rank. It's not about title. It's not about position. But right now, I'm just talking as far as our leadership team goes, our chief operational officer, director of training, IT, those kind of things. The conversations are brilliant because it's all about innovation. It's all about advancing forward tomorrow because that's how you take better care of your customer. But I'm going to them because they're innovators, because I've worked hard to create a culture that has innovators, forward-thinking people that look forward to change, that will face challenges to get better, to go to the next step of leadership. So it makes the whole organization better, the agents, everybody. I'm going to them because I know they're innovators. Now, I'm still not going to let them make the decision. If I feel like it's the right decision, I'm still going to do it. But so many of you out there, not only do you let the employees run the business and keep you from innovating, keeping you from doing things that you absolutely should be doing, you're also going to the people that you know that you either don't even want around, like this lady. I mean, think about this, everybody. This is a lady that identified her team as being bad. Now, partly she's to blame because of poor leadership, but at the same time, I think looking at that lady based on some of the things she said, you could be the best leader of all time, and you're still going to have a few people that had to go because you're never going to change them. She's complaining about them and still going to them to make the decision for her and not to rock the boat. And so many of you do this. So many of you is, I don't want to do this. I may lose the one employee, and if I don't have her, how can I wait the tables? How can I see people in clinic? You do this. And you sabotage so many great things that can happen in your business. So many things that could improve your employees. Like a lot of your employees out there, everybody, they're like, just like I said, they're not going to want to do the things that are necessary to advance their skill sets to allow them to make more money. They think they can just walk into your business and say, hey, inflation's here, give me $5 more an hour. Like they aren't thinking this way, no different than your kids don't think this way. And I'll talk about parenting here in just a second, but this has got to stop for so many of you out there. Stop asking for permission. Stop getting everybody's opinions and seeking out 95 different opinions to try to make a decision. Be a leader, be a visionary, do the things that you must do to make your business great, to make your team great, to transform their lives, develop your people, make them do the things they don't want to do. This is what leaders do. They don't ask for permission. And like I said, there's nothing wrong if you know and you've worked hard to create the right culture. There's nothing wrong with sitting down with your team and say, this is what we're going to do. What are your thoughts? Right? Now's your time to voice your opinions because later on, I'm not going to take it anymore. Like there's nothing wrong with it. But when you use that to guide your decision making, you are always going to fall behind. You are never going to run an innovative business because most people are reluctant to change, especially the lower somebody is getting paid. Their mindset is not designed in a way where they're going to wake up in the morning saying, what can I do today to advance my skill sets, to offer more value to the business, to increase my pay, to advance my career? They aren't thinking that way. Doesn't mean they can't. But most likely they weren't raised that way. Most likely they come to your business not thinking that way, which means it's on your shoulders to convince them to think that way and do the things you have to do to grow your frickin' business and stop asking for permission. Hey everybody, Brian Wright here. Hope you are enjoying today's episode, and I want to talk to you about our iconic event. Registration is open. You may have heard this on previous podcasts. We're already having people sign up. Don't miss out, because we cannot take a lot of people. First priority is our customers, and then and only then do we let out outsiders. If you're a customer, I'm not talking to you. I know you're coming, all right? You're going to be signing up. But if you're somebody that's not currently part of our customer family, this event is the best event you will ever attend. There is nothing else like it in our niche. You will walk away with career, life, and business transformation skill sets that you can go back, regardless of the business you are, and you will forever be grateful that you attended this in October. In Nashville, Tennessee, we have an awesome hotel lined up, a lot of cool activities that we're going to be delivering you, and this is a cannot miss for you and your team. This is a full team iconic. At minimum, we want you, the business owner and the leadership team, right, that you consider your leaders, to come to this event at minimum. But registration is open for your full team. We want to see you there. It is going to be amazing. Like I said in previous podcasts, I want you to think Shark Tank entrepreneur. I want you to think Tony Robbins. I want you to get the head out of whatever industry you're in. Forget you're in that industry, and you are going to be blown away at the skill sets that you are taught. And we have had several comments. I can put some in the description below. You will see several comments that they will never attend another event other than Iconic again, because there is no other event in existence that can keep up with the content that we teach and the role plays and the personal attention you and your team will receive. We hope you're there. I'm going to put the registration link in below. Click on it, learn more about it on the landing page, and we hope to see you at this year's Iconic event in Nashville, Tennessee, this coming October. And now let's get back to today's episode. Now let me talk to you about the other side of consensus leadership that I do believe in, and I think is really good if you do it the way I'm about to describe, while also not letting it guide your decision-making. So I just got back from, shout out Dr. Eric Howard, just got back from an on-site coaching session with them. And he does something really cool every other year as kind of a reward for his team. He brings them up to his beach house and does some cool things, brings in speakers, things like that. Well, this year they brought me in as the speaker in a coaching session, and we cooked for his team and things like that. And we introduced a new concept around something brand new. I believe it's a major secret sauce we teach over in our niche in the orthodontic side, dental side, is a brand new type of consultation that we're teaching that is all based around consumer data, and it's really cool. So what Eric wanted, and what I love doing, and I do this in my organizations too, is kind of an inspiration speech, kind of a why are we moving towards this? And he wanted his whole team there to see it and be a part of it. And as we cooked at night, we talked about the coaching session and what we talked about. And we had a blast. It was absolutely awesome from A to Z. But he didn't do it, and I didn't want to do it, because we were hoping to get their blessing and hoping to get them go, okay, I agreed, let's do this. No, we were going to do it, and he was going to do it regardless. So you see the difference. And this is what I love doing. Like, I don't love walking into my companies and go, here's the idea, we're doing it whether you like it or not. That's not what I'm teaching all of you. That's very different. That's running things like a dictator. With a lot of the generations today, it doesn't work. It's not the way to do it. It's not the way to inspire, and it's not the way to run a good business. So if you have an idea, presenting the why behind the idea, which is what we did at Eric's, right? I had all these, the data points from today's consumer around video marketing, attention span, experience studies. We said, how can we use all that data to transform the customer experience journey, which means every interaction before sale and after? How can we transform all of that to look very different than the other opinions? And as I did that, the team was like, oh, wow, this is really cool. I totally see it, understand. That's not why we did it, though. Now, the idea is going to work much better if you get buy-in from the team and inspiration, and by delivering the inspiration, the motivation, like I did with Eric's practice. Obviously, it's going to be easier to get your idea implemented faster if everyone's like, hell yeah, I see it. Let's do it. That is totally different than saying, all right, Dr. Howard, Eric, let's go to dinner here. Oh, gosh, boy, I hope this idea works. Hopefully your team allows us permission to do it. And that is what so many of you do. You sit there and you ask for permission. So the idea is inspire, motivate, give the reason why we're doing this, and then say, hey, we're doing it. Like, let's do this. Well, doctor, or, Brian, I don't want to do this. Well, okay, well, why? All right, I understand that. Here's some reasons why to think differently. We're doing this. You hope that your team is on board, but never do you get their permission to make the necessary moves to advance your business, to advance their career, therefore advancing all of your lives. It is literally your innovation. It's like what personal bias does out there. You've heard me in past episodes talk about this. Personal bias will crush innovation. Well, I don't feel it should be this way. Well, who gives a damn what you feel? The data says it needs to be this way. So put your feelings aside and do it because the data says do it. And so many of you with this consensus leadership and letting your employees run your business and letting them say what companies, your outsourced partners, they need to go. I don't like them. Oh, okay, John. It's just asinine, everybody. You have got to deliver innovation. You have got to inspire, yes, but you see the difference between bringing everybody together like an Eric Howard does, a big team event, a culture event, a leadership event. Let's inspire them. Let's cook for them. Let's inspire them to do things differently. Why this change is coming. None of it was to get their permission. 100% of it was to tell the why and inspire to get them on board. And then if they weren't on board, we were going to do it anyway. And that's the difference. So many of you, first of all, you leave out the why and the inspiration. You don't even do that. Second of all, it's like you beg for their permission in order to do things you need to do. You have to stop this way of leading your organization because it's not leadership at all. Like, I'm never going to go to the agents of WrightChat that are answering incoming calls and logging into your software and scheduling them as if they were your own employees. I'm never going to go to them and get their permission on making them role play or hiring a company speaker that pushes their boundaries or making them read a book. I'm not going to ask their permission. Well, do you want to do this? Can I do this? Am I allowed to hire this company? No. Because oftentimes, like I said, just like kids, they don't know what is in store for their own good. Like, you have to change their mindset. You have to teach them this. You have to do things like great leaders do, like great coaches do, and to bring people out of their comfort zone, whether they like it or not, whether they know it's good for them or not. Now, this doesn't mean that I don't sit down with the WrightChat agents, because I like doing this and getting their opinion on things and making sure they have the right equipment and the right training, and to ask them what they like about the culture and what they don't. Of course, I'm gonna have our leaders talk to them, and I'm gonna have one-on-ones with them because I actually care. And every once in a while, you'll get an idea from the people on the ground floor that you're like, damn, why didn't I think of that? That's a great idea. So it's not about not talking to your people. It's not about not asking them questions. It's not about, not inspiring them or not wanting to inspire them to change and to get on board. It's not about any of those things. What it's about is you don't go to your people, especially your people on the ground floor like the agents or your clinical assistants or your receptionists, your treatment coordinators, and I'm talking to our niche right now, but this is the same thing if you're a restaurant out there and going to your waiters and saying, hey, waiter Joe, do you want me to hire this company that's going to make you role play so you can sell more wine and desserts and the specials for the evening? It's going to be really hard on you. They're going to do a lot of things. And Joe says, no, I don't want that. Right? Even though Joe doesn't realize that if he said yes, he's going to sell more, so his tips are going to go up, so he's going to live a better life. They don't think this way. They don't think this way in our niche inside your practice. Most hourly employees don't think this way in any business on the planet. Therefore, you must get them thinking this way, and you must lead the organization the way you know is going to match your vision, match your mission. You should have both, and just roll on. But you don't get permission. Those are two totally different things. You don't seek the majority of the room, which is really what consensus leadership is. It's seeking the majority going, yeah, I'm on board. And then you're going, okay, we'll do it. But if 6 out of 10 say no, nope, not going to do it. That's crap. It's terrible. It sucks. It's going to suck the innovation and the forward progress out of your business. It's going to keep your employees from developing and getting more out of their life. The other form of consensus leadership that a lot of you fall into this trap is your obsession over getting the majority of your friends and colleagues to say, yeah, I think it's a good idea. You should do it. And if you don't get the majority of them saying, yeah, it's a good idea, you should do it, you don't do it. And that's just as bad as seeking the majority vote inside your office with all of your team members. Just like I have talked about with the team members, there's nothing wrong with consulting with colleagues. There's nothing wrong with talking to friends. But you also have to understand they may not know what they're talking about, or they may have different dreams and aspirations and they want a different business than you. So the idea to them may not be good because that's not what they're trying to get out of their business, not what they're trying to get out of their life. Meanwhile, you want something completely different, so they say no and you don't do it. And this happens all the time. Well, should I use this outsourced partner? Should I hire Brian Wright, new patient group, WrightChat, whatever. You do this across. Should I do remote monitoring? Should I do more Invisalign? Somebody says no, you don't do it. You've got to stop that crap. That's not what great leaders do. That's not what visionaries do. That's not what the finest entrepreneurs in the world do. We love, let's just say, and you should too, and this is easier said than done, but we love doing it when other people don't think we should do it. That's what a great visionary is. Do you know how many ideas and how many great things that we all take for granted in our daily lives wouldn't exist if people sat there and said, nobody seemed to want it. Everyone thought it was a bad idea. A lot of times you've got to give the consumer things. Otherwise, they don't know what they want. That's why you've got to be the visionary. You've got to come up and convince the consumer what they want. The reality is they don't know what they want until you give it to them, and give it to them in a unique way. What that lady should have done, everybody, with the story I told you in the beginning, is she should have said, team, look, we're struggling. Culture's down. You're not having a good time. I'm not having a good time. Our numbers are getting crushed. It doesn't have to be this way. There's a different way to do it. This is a new economy with new consumers. A new way of doing things is a requirement. What I'm going to do, and I've made the decision, is I'm bringing aboard a company that's going to help us get better. It won't always be easy. There's still a way for us to have fun through this process, but there's going to be a lot of change. This company is experts at what they do. They're the only company in our space that does what they do. And I've made the decision, and we're going to do it, and we're going to move forward, baby, and we're going to transform this place, and we can either do it together or the door is right over there. That's what a great leader does. That's what a visionary does, everybody. But she didn't, and therefore she sabotaged her entire company, everything she's ever worked for, the ability to offer her employees the chance to develop their skill sets, whether they want to or not, and all get more out of their lives. You've got to stop it with this stuff. You must change how you view this decision-making and become a true leader. I hope everybody enjoyed it today. If you're watching on the YouTube station, hey there, make sure to thumb this up for us and make sure to subscribe to the Brian Wright YouTube station. It would help us out a lot as we're building a brand new one, as I said in the beginning. And make some comments, share with your friends, colleagues, audio experience listeners out there. Appreciate your support as well. Please write us a 5-star review on whatever channel you are listening to us on. That would mean the world and help us out a lot. And as always, share this with anybody that wants to transform their life, career, and or business. And until next time, everybody, take great care of yourselves, your customers, and your team members, and we'll see everybody soon. Bye-bye.